Morning, guys.
Good morning, Jan.
How you doing?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'll have to drop around 8:30 today. I have some visitors coming in, so
Well, looking forward to catching up at OCP, DJ.
likewise, John Michael. I'm looking forward as well. This week today I kind of came down with some bug, so I was thinking it's actually a good thing because I'll be recovered by next week. If it had happened next week, it would have been terrible.
Yeah, my kids just went through. They were sick for a couple days, and then but it's going
Yeah,
around. It's going around.
I don't know what happened. Day before yesterday, I was fine, and last night I was coughing, and throughout the night I couldn't sleep well, and I,
Ah,
I drank so much water, and then you drink water, and then you have to go to pee, and then you try to sleep, and you're thirsty. It's just endless cycle.
I think this is the first sustainability call that we attempting to use Zoom. And see, Alex is guys are figuring it out right now.
Actually, you're right because my calendar has all go-to meetings from before, so I just go to the website, and now I'm downloading every time I see.
Yeah, I think
Oh, I wish I could.
I know. Yeah, I think if people have, if they're subscribed to the list on the wiki, then they'll get the right invite. But if they had like the old meeting invite is still on their calendar. Yeah, honestly, my calendar's still messed up, but so I appreciate Alex saying, yeah, we have a meeting right now. I don't know. It still looks weird.
Eric, do you know if Mohan is going to join?
I don't know what his plans are this morning.
Okay.
I can try to ping him though.
Yeah, may not be a bad idea. Maybe just see.
Yeah, it looks like he's not logged in now, but he was 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
We'll probably catch him on his cell.
Alex did send out an agenda.
He did, but it had the go-to link at the bottom. So if people followed that one,
Ah,
someplace else.
that is true.
I had the same issue and I had to go find it, but boy, it's hard to pull the Zoom links out of that calendar invites now.
Okay. I need to get the folks who are presenting over to this meeting. I will be right back. Let's see, is Mohan on the phone?
I'm after him. He will be shortly.
Okay. The first agenda item is just to go through the summit, but I'll be back in 1 minute to do that. Just give me 1 sec.
There he is. Morning, Alex.
Hey, everybody. Sorry for the mix-up here. I'm just trying to get the SDEA folks over to this meeting so that they can present. Hang on 1 sec. Shoot. Well, apologies for the confusion with the meeting link. There's a handful of folks who should be coming over to join us now from the GoTo. In the meantime, let's run through the first few pieces of our agenda. So it is Summit Week next week. Looking forward to that, and we have our agenda set, which we can run through here quickly. I'll just share my screen. So we did do a little bit of shuffling in the morning. We've added a bit of time to a couple of the presentations. One is Julius's presentation, because that received so much interest last time. So this is the CDR Tech presentation. And then the other is the presentation from Solidigm on the SSD revolution. Since there are 3 presenters on that one, we added a few minutes to that. And so that takes us all the way to the set break at 2:30. So this is the final run of show for the sustainability track. and the 19th, and it includes the panel that will happen on the at the expo hall stage starting at 8:45 a.m. Any comments or questions on our run of show for the summit, or any other summit items to bring up?
Whoops. Yeah, Alex, the only issue I had was like, I know Eric and some other folks left comments on the docs, and then I downloaded it from the like go to, or like the, you know, the FN portal thing, and then the comments didn't show up. So
Oh no, yeah, I
yeah, 'cause
also
they, like,
left
after
comments.
I know anybody who submitted their presentation late by like an hour, like you couldn't see any of the comments, that they just like
Oh
turned
no.
it off or something. So I apologize, Eric. I know you did review the slides. If you do have the feedback and still have it, I would love to see it and see if I can get some last minute changes in there.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can dig them up. I made
Yeah.
the comments in the tool, so I don't actually have a local copy. If we lost the online copy, I'll see if I can get my hands on it.
Sure. Yeah, and then Alex, I for some reason I thought we had 40 minutes, which is, why we have two speakers in my track, myself and Louis from Microsoft. If we could get another even 5 minutes, that would be good. If not, we did do a run through and made it through in 20 minutes, but whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, since you're asking for it, we do have time to give out. We would just need to move you to before the break. And then we could give you 30 minutes at least if you wanted it. I don't think that'll be a problem. Let me just check with Kate to make sure she's okay with it. Obviously, we're close to the deadline, and I'm sure she's
Yeah.
juggling a million balls. But if she's fine with that, I certainly am.
No worries. Yeah.
I'll just slot you in at 1:30 and give you 30 minutes then.
Oh yeah,
And
still
I'll
afternoon.
move
Well,
Julius
yeah, I think that
down.
would be preferable.
Okay. Yep.
Sweet.
Let me see what I can do. Matthias, could you ping Babak and make sure that he sees the Zoom link,
I will try.
or give him a call? I don't know if
I'll
that's
send him a
possible.
message. Yep, I'll do that.
Okay.
And in the meantime, Eric, can you and I connect maybe later today for the panel? I know you submitted the presentation, but I think we should sync up to see what the plan is for that particular.
Yeah, that would be good. I've been meaning to reach out to you because I put your name on it and then I haven't talked to you at all about what's in there.
I know, and yeah, so I would like to.
Yeah. Does any time after 2:30 work?
2:30 today.
Yeah.
1 second. Give me a second. I'll check my calendar.
Mohan, anything to add on the summit next
Yeah,
week?
2:30
No.
1 second.
Okay, sorry, DJ.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So Eric, could you send me an invite and then I talk to you at 2:30?
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
No, I think it's it looks good, Alex. Sorry, I joined a bit late. I was looking at the wrong invite. My apologies.
No, it's all good. I bungled the meeting link. Babak?
Yeah,
Welcome.
I'm here.
All right.
Back. Yeah, this is more familiar territory. Zoom is easier.
Zoom.
Let me just real quick sign in, and then we're good to go.
Okay.
So did we? I guess some of us didn't get the Zoom link, or some of us had the Zoom link, or I didn't.
Yeah, so I sent it out to everybody, but just too late after I had sent the wrong link. So
Okay.
we'll get on the
No
program
worries.
next
All
month. So Matthias, I don't know if you would be willing to just introduce the SDEA or Babak, so that folks know the context, and then we can dig in.
Yeah. So let Matthias and I are both sort of running members of SDEA. I'm the president, and Matthias is a project manager. He's actually we have a volunteer organization. He's the only full-time member of this. Matt, do you want to give a little bit of background about yourself? A real quick intro?
Sure, quickly, why not? Nice to meet you all. As Babak said, I'm the project manager for the Swiss Data Center Efficiency Association. I do not have a technical background. I come from journalism, marketing, communications, and here to give this organization that you're about to meet through this presentation from Babak some more visibility and get our name out there and yeah, make sure I'm starting in Switzerland, people know that we exist. That's about it.
Yeah. And I'm a professor of computer science at EPFL. Before that, I was a full prof at Carnegie Mellon, and basically have been looking at data center design. All in my research, I do server chip design, so server CPUs, GPUs, memory systems. So, okay, should we start?
Yeah, please do. Thanks for joining us.
So
Appreciate it.
thank you very much, Alex. Thank you all for inviting us to present to you. So what is the context behind this? I've been in touch with various members of Open Compute for over the years, and I've been trying to convince everyone to come together to come up with a minimum set of KPIs for IT, mostly. DC is also important, and we have already some metrics. We're making a lot of progress. IT is more challenging, and this presentation, I'll try to motivate that. So I'm presenting the SDA label. It's a label we launched a couple of years ago. It's a label for quantitative evaluation of energy efficiency and emissions in data center operations. So it's not looking at life cycle assessment. It's only looking mostly as when electricity comes in, where does it really go in the data center, right? And so goodbye PUE, hello full stack efficiency. Let me see if I can move this. I guess I can move it here. So you see this presentation mode, I guess. It's correct.
Yep,
Yes.
it looks
Okay.
good.
Yeah, Peter.
All right, good. So data centers growing. Depending on who you ask, you get a different number. What the CAGR is, but roughly around 15-17% worldwide. Data center market and storage is growing a little bit faster, collecting a lot of data. Data centers are now basically come in various flavors. So when I came to Switzerland, I was prof at Carnegie Mellon doing server design, server research, benchmarking, and also eventually evaluating our own designs. Data centers at that time, we thought it's going to be mostly public clouds, that big ones, or eventually consolidate all the computing. Now, what we see is sort of more of a broader market. There are still enterprise clouds out there, obviously. There are the big ones, the hyperscalers, and then the hyperscalers are also building edge, and others are also hosting edge data centers. And edge allows you to have a bit of a data protection framework and also faster access to your data. And AI is here. By some estimates, AI has grown in computational demand 6x a year. Edge clouds also come with various edge devices, and edge devices with better connectivity also have shown a lot of growth. So those are boosting the growth in data centers as well. The one thing that I talk to journalists a lot about in Switzerland and also worldwide is Moore's Law. So Moore's Law is silicon getting denser every year by 40%. So if you take a rack of servers and you go 10 years forward to 40% a year, you get about 28x. Improvement in density. That roughly came with the same amount of electric activity. We didn't see a whole lot of growth in electricity. But now if you slow down Moore's Law, let's say to 15% a year, which is more recent numbers, then you get 4x density in 10 years. And that means that if you don't do anything else, you have to build 7 times, right? And the net result of this today is that if you plot thermal design power of CPUs and GPUs, right, over the past couple of decades. And I have this graph, it's not in this presentation. The CPUs are sort of level at 150 watts of maximum power consumption per CPU for over a couple of decades. And now we're seeing a growth, basically, in CPU power. Most of it comes from, we're building a bit bigger, but also we're basically jacking up the frequencies. So that now sort of rise in power is a bit of an exponential phenomenon. If you look at GPUs, that exponential is much, much faster. So in 3 generations, NVIDIA went from basically a couple of 100 watts to now the latest product is 700 watts. It's basically shooting up. This also pushes us to cooling, liquid cooling, and we're probably moving away from air cooling. What is full stack efficiency? It's energy efficiency in your communicate, storage, and also all the housing equipment, your electrical subsystem, your cooling, everything else that comes with it, or the heat recycling. Then there is heat recovery. So that's an important aspect. So we are now building data centers in Switzerland, Europe. Heat recycling is super important. There are a lot of heat recovery networks. Pretty much everybody is now connected to a heat recycling network. So we need to be able to measure that. And on-premises renewables are also becoming, and renewables in general, interesting, and on-premises are also interesting. So, you know, there is PUE. There's always PUE. PUE has been around for decades, and it's a solid standard. Everybody's using it. People are still lost in PUE in Europe, and there is a lot of reporting about PUE numbers. Mostly that's total DC power by the fraction of it that goes into the housing infrastructure versus what you deliver to IT. And the problem with PUE, we already know also for the past 2 decades, the hyperscalers knew this immediately. You know, IT efficiency is not measured in PUE. Even if you have a high efficiency rating for your IT equipment, if you're not going to use the full capacity of that electricity, then your efficiency is not that high. So we need to also figure out how much of that electricity delivered is actually being used, because at lower utilization, your efficiency is also lower. And we need end-to-end energy flows and heat recycling on premises renewables. These are examples of metrics that are not covered in PUE. So here's just a cartoon that says, okay, PUE at 50% of your electricity is going to IT, PUE of 1.2. We're building now 1.2, 1.15 co-locators in Europe, which is mostly a co-location market. They're now pushing this to try to push to 1.15, which is really good. Most of your electricity is going to IT, right? And that's really where we need to be focusing on. And so we have this label. I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's full stack. It includes IT. It's timely because we have a need for it in the European market. Europe is also coming with mandates, although they're slow on transparency into efficiency and DC operation. And it's comprehensive, meaning that we have an end-to-end energy flow. So, and there is a sort of a plus version of it, which if you reach a certain level of index in efficiency and the level of emissions for your source of electricity is beyond a certain level, you get the plus. So both of those criteria have to be met to get the plus version. And so our flow basically is DC infrastructure efficiency, which includes not just how much of the electricity goes into the housing equipment, but also heat recycling, and we also take into account renewables on premises. And then the IT is just a bunch of KPIs. I'll talk about the classification of these KPIs for you. So this is the flow of that index, basically. And the index is a quantitative index. It's basically on the same scale as PUE, but it's a mix of the two to give you energy efficiency and eventually a better sort of the superior version, which requires emissions. So our KPIs are broken down into the utilization of the equipment. So how much of the logic, memory, storage is utilized, how much of the capacity of the server is consolidated, how much is not consolidated. Then we look into the fraction of your disk, your storage, that's a hard disk versus flash. Flash is more power efficient, obviously more expensive, but it helps with efficiency. What fraction of your network is copper versus optics? We look at technology rating of your PSUs, your PDUs. And we also look into, for the shared storage, compaction factor used when storing data. And for all the components, we also look at the maximum operating temperature allowed for that component. So that also allows the operators to be a bit more flexible with how far they want to push their temperatures. The DC flows, we have DC flows there are 6 flows that are pre-configured, and they have a number of different components. Each flow, for example, some flows include heat recycling. There are flows that don't include heat recycling. We have flows that include on-premises renewables. There are flows that don't include on-premise. So we have 6 pre-configured ones. And we also allow the customers to specify their energy flow for the DC electricity flow and energy flow. And then if they specified with a schematic and they show how they measure the various KPIs that we have for DC flow, then we also allow them to get certified. We were cited in a report by the International Energy Agency last year, which was a task force looking at the various labels that are out there for data centers. And they cited us as the only label that's out there that's quantitative and gives a numeric ranking and not just an endorsement. So that's basically that was done without our intervention. We didn't even know about it. So it's a 6-step process to go through this. It's an online platform. You get in, we have a DC calculator, we have an IT calculator, we have an emissions calculator. The customer enters the information. They hire an independent auditor. We don't audit. Then the independent auditor checks to see what they measured. They will do a site visit, and then they write a report that these things are measured correctly and were submitted to us. The measurement window is 1 year for the KPIs. We allow customers to measure for 3 months, but then they have to revisit those numbers. These are new constructions where they don't have a 1 year worth of measurement. We then revisit those in 1 year and check to make sure that they've reached those even for the 1 year aggregate data. And eventually they receive a label. The label is modular. That means that the co-locator can get certified for their DC. The customer of a certified co-locator can also get certified for their IT. And you can have a proper DC instance of the enterprise DC, which is both IT and DC flows together. You get one certification for the whole flow. As long as a particular DC flow has its own proper measurement and points of measurement counters, we can also certify multiple modules within the same campus, or we can certify the entire campus. So in that sense, it's also the DC flow is also modular. We have a partnership with a company called CheckMK in Germany, which we just announced. And what CheckMK does is that they have created dashboards for our IT KPIs. These dashboards support pretty much all software stacks that people use in Europe in the IT stack, and provide metrics and instrument them. They also allow that for you to run in a cloud. So they also support technologies that are available in the cloud. And that's basically it. So this is, SDEA, Data Center Efficiency Measured, Not Guessed. We thank our sponsors, Schneider, SIGPA, and Swiss Energy. Swiss Energy is a program by the Federal Office of Energy in Switzerland. We're a nonprofit. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Well, thanks for being here, Babak.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much for the presentation. This is Mohan. We actually, first of all, I would like to welcome you to come participate in some of our work stream, because as you rightly pointed out, this is one of those things that we are tackling also, because when, first of all, PUE is, how should I put it politely, subject to gaming. And also when PUE is won, I don't know what your bragging rights are, right? Are very close to one. So we've been looking at alternatives that are more focused on the IT realm. So it's great to see, for sure, many of us on this call, it's very resonant thing. So I'm going to send you. I don't know, Alex, is this university part of the OCP network? Are we allowed to share information?
You know, I haven't checked that. It's a good question.
Okay, so maybe we'll just invite you in to our forum, and we'll go through what we have, and it'll be great to, exchange thoughts and see where we can take this. So just like you saw, I work for Intel, so we come at it from a silicon standpoint, right? So essentially what is happening is that everything that used to be data center power has been optimized away. That's why these guys are saying PUE of close to 1. So now the thing is that they're all hidden inside the IT power, right? Code, and I should come on camera so you can see me doing the air quotes on the IT power, because there's lots of cooling that's hidden inside that IT power. So that's what we've been chasing it down. So this is a great presentation, very resonates very well with some of the work streams that Alex and I and Eric have going on here.
Yeah, thank you. I want to sort of, my motivation for this is that I think depending on which part of the market we come from and which part of the world we are, we have different requirements. So a lot of the hyperscalers, we also work with hyperscalers. Hyperscalers are, of course, they have low PUEs and they have pretty high efficiencies, and they're moving forward. They're interested in life cycle assessment or moving to basically next level, embodied carbon, everything else. In Europe, and I've seen this in other countries as well, we have a lot of mom and pop data centers, and then we have the co-location market. And the co-location market is really, and the hyperscalers are also being hosted by co-locators, right? So here, there are a number of them that have popped up in recent years: Equinix, North Sea, Stack Infra, Digital Realty, right? They go around and they basically say, look, our PUE is 1.3, right? Who said that your PUE is 1.3, right? So that's what I guess this article also in International Energy Agency article is trying to point out, is that you need to actually have somebody measure and say your PUE properly measured over a year, let's say, is this level, number one. So we're probably far from where the hyperscalers are in their own basic large campuses, right? And then the second thing is that there are a lot of labels that are popping up in Europe. Countries are not in sync as to how advanced we are on this topic. Switzerland is a little bit, we're not part of the European Union, so things move a little bit faster here. And I'm still in conversation with people where they're talking about, okay, we're mandating a PUE of, I don't know, 1.3 in 2026, right? And then there are labels that are popping up that are looking at PUE of 1.5, and they say you've reached 1. So I'm trying to explain to some of these folks that we're past the electricity we're delivering to the housing infrastructure. We already take into account heat recycling, and that's super popular. We need to properly look at where electricity is going in IT. And that is where I think hyperscalers and perhaps this committee also could be super helpful, where we come up with a set of KPIs for IT. These are difficult to measure, but at least we need to agree on a set of them first. And then say, okay, we agree that this minimum set of KPI is a good first step for the entire market, right? And not just a particular group of stakeholders with large infrastructure, right? And I think that would be super helpful for Europe. And given that hyperscalers are also hosted in Europe by these local co-locators, that would inspire a lot of the other customers of the co-locators to also say, yeah, okay, we agree with these KPIs and we want to measure them and show. And a lot of times also, by the way, with our customers, when we talk to them, they use a platform, they find bottlenecks in their flows. They find bottlenecks in what they're actually doing. And this is super helpful for them as well. I
think it's a useful model for hyperscalers evaluating colo providers, because as you said, and as Mohan pointed out, PUE is of less and less meaning to hyperscalers who are doing comparison shopping. And if they can take the model that you've established here and have a form that gives them more detailed information, as you were just saying, perhaps established KPIs that are more meaningful, they can do a more meaningful comparison, and then you still have the kind of ratings over the top if there's another stakeholder that wants a quick glance rather than digging into all the data. And I do see alignment with what OCP is doing in terms of evaluating those more advanced metrics, those KPIs that are more meaningful, especially as it relates to white space energy usage to IT energy.
What's the smallest data centers that are targeted?
So campus sizes are basically the ones that are hyperscalers are being hosted in are 5,000 square meters. I guess 5,000 square meters would be 50,000 square feet, right? Roughly multiplied by 9, 10. And then smaller customers, I mean, we just we certified the telecoms in Switzerland, Swisscom, their oldest data center. And 2 weeks ago, these guys reached 1.3, which is phenomenal for the oldest data center in Switzerland, right? So they are continuing to try to stay sustainable. That was also 5,000 square meter, but we've seen also smaller ones at campuses that are around 1,000 square meter and below. And there are a lot of mom and pop data centers, but these are being consolidated slowly. So they're if they want to keep their equipment, at least they'll move their equipment to a co-locator.
Are you measuring square feet too, or are you measuring data center size by power capacity?
It's mostly we are doing square meter because the co-locators are renting square meter, but we will also eventually move to power capacity. And the power capacities are, we're building basically 40 megawatt. The large campuses are 40 megawatt right now, if that helps you.
Mm-hmm. And then I had another question, if we can change topics. So
Sure.
you talked about, I think you called it technology excellence,
Yeah.
where can you say more about, flash versus HDD and copper versus optics? Is there some notion that some type of technology is inherently better? You're just measuring a fraction of X versus Y, or?
No, we're looking at, it's a broad classification of what we call technology. It's not a lot of KPIs, by the way. So some of the products out there in the market already have energy efficiency ratings like PDUs and PSUs. And so we use the rating that's already available in the market. For other forms of technology excellence, for example, flash versus hard disk, that's really the only, that and compaction factor in shared storage is really the only KPIs we have. So our set of KPIs are super minimum. They're not comprehensive by any means. In the case of the network, it's utilization of the network, so the traffic that we measure. So basically, CheckMK measures it, but you can also measure it with other open source software or even proprietary software. The only other thing we look at, for example, is copper versus optics for network. Yeah.
Do you have? I guess I'm a little confused about, or stuck on how we would with the storage stuff. I mean, it sounds like this requires that you're able to run software on the machine. So you mentioned colo providers. If you don't, how are they supposed to comply or apply for?
So colos only certify their DC flow, and that all comes from counters in the infrastructure, right? And the customers of colos they have their servers in the DC flow, and they're running software. And we use, CheckMK is the preferred partner for us because they've created a dashboard. They instrument basically the software stacks, and then they aggregate the KPIs for us and report on it. And CheckMK allows you to report with various frequencies, and eventually they also aggregate over time. They don't keep everything. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that answers the question.
Yeah. I think we have two more.
Yeah.
Questions.
So just I had a question. Here's Jaime. I had a question, but I want to ask another one because you just say something about Chicken K. And so for the case of a colo, does this mean that then the clients of the colo need to accept to be part of this game, probably, or not?
No, the colo gets certified. So we're certifying colos here. Like Green is the largest colocation provider in Switzerland. I think they're hosting Amazon and maybe even Google. They're being certified for their DC flow, and it's up to their customers if they want to be certified for their IT.
Okay.
But
So
DC is easy, IT is the challenge, basically.
Yeah,
So.
probably yes. So
Yeah.
the other question was, how transparent is the way you calculate this index? Are you really showing how this calculation is done? Is it proprietary? So you said you're a non-profit, so maybe.
We haven't exposed the calculation, so it's not open because we just started, right? Okay. But we can also potentially have a conversation even in the context of open compute. I mean, that's why I'm here. I was like, okay, let's all agree on a base set of indices that we can somehow aggregate and start, launch this as a starting position for everyone. But right now, it's not open. You see in the tool, the customer sees what's going on, right? They see what they're entering and how that changes the index.
Okay,
does that answer your question?
Yeah, so they see how they can influence this index by changing by playing with numbers, but they don't know what is behind, what is actually the mathematics behind.
Well, so for the DC flow, it's super simple because you see the schematic of the energy. You actually see the energy flow. Our calculator shows for each pre-configured DC flow, it actually shows the schematic. And so when you have that and you have the counters in place, you already know what's going on. So there's no magic in the calculation. For the IT flow, it's an aggregate index, and we give the customers a manual that says this is basically how we aggregate the index, right? But we don't show it in the online platform. The online platform, you just enter numbers and you get the index. And by the way, having said that, we have customers who use the online platform to debug their DC flow. And it helped them achieve a better efficiency. So it also gives them a bit of a lens into what's going on. This is not something we planned, and we don't provide any services with the tool, but they started using the platform and it helped them figure out what was wrong with their flow. We have customers who use the platform for new constructions as well. We have a question. Yes.
Yes, actually, two different questions. So first, about what you were talking right now. So you mentioned that you give a manual to the customers. So that does mean that all the KPIs you are using are published. Like anybody can look up exactly which KPIs are being used.
All of the KPIs are already both in the document and also in the platform. You see it in front of your eyes. There's no magic behind the scene. All the KPIs are what you enter. There is a name for the KPI and you enter a value for it. We also give pre-configured values for good, bad, and ugly. So they see examples of what would be proper numbers.
Oh, I see. So then if I'm entering, KPI number 1, I can see what is a good number and what is a bad number.
Yeah, exactly.
Considered by algorithm before I enter the numbers.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. You can click on a pre-configured number that says this is excellent, and it shows you an index for that.
I see.
And then you could play with individual numbers. You don't need to change everything.
Okay. And unrelated question. I know you mentioned that there are 40 megawatt large centers that you actually have worked with. What is the smallest in terms of power capacity, or more on the smaller side?
We don't have, our label is, so the DC certification is based on square meter, and we have a minimum campus size or machine room size of 500 square meters. That's about a 5,000 square feet. That's the minimum. Below that, you don't pay. You pay a minimum amount, and then the maximum is 5,000. Most of the ones we're certifying are the big ones right now. We try one of the small data centers that started working with us. They figured out they don't have the right counters in place to even measure the DC flow.
Oh, I see.
And most likely in the future, they will go away. They will get consolidated into the bigger data centers.
Okay, so it's mostly around 40 megawatts.
Yeah. Having said that, well, I mean, no, 40 megawatts is the big campus, the 5,000 square meter. There are a lot of data centers in the 10 megawatt or 10 megawatt range, I think, right now. But this is also changing. The market is changing because it's getting more consolidated. We're building bigger ones. I also wanted to tell you that the European Union has published a mandate recently where they're asking all data centers to report on their electricity consumption if they're above 500 kilowatts, which we think is a little ridiculous because there are a lot of small machine rooms that don't have to report. But yeah, so we're not on the same page with the European Union when it comes to that. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a very quick question for myself. How are you validating the data out of interest? So you're obviously getting a lot of data coming in from data centers, etc. Are you trying to validate that as well as part of the process, or how are you going about that as well?
So there is an independent auditor that we have a list of auditors that we recommend. The customer basically hires the auditor. The auditor goes and checks all the numbers that were measured and entered into the tool. Okay. And then they write a report about it. So the auditor validates that it was measured correctly and entered correctly.
Interesting. Okay. No, thank you very much for that. Okay. Interesting.
You're welcome.
Hey, Babak, a quick question. So how do you plan to standardize or take advantage of something like Open Compute Project to find a way to make this approach common across the industry? Or is this something you're kind of pursuing for your...
Yeah, so DJ, this is exactly what was the motivation when I tried to talk to you last year. I think that this is the right platform, this group of people who can come together and say, look, we have a minimum set of KPIs for the IT that we believe people should report, right? And I think maybe it's not so much related to open compute, but it's more related to this particular group of stakeholders who also, including yourself, other hyperscalers, you have IT KPIs. And we can basically together agree on a set of IT KPIs, because your IT KPIs are good, but you use them internally. Others use their own internal ones. Most of the European market is not. It's basically a co-location market. And you guys are also being hosted by the co-locators, right? I mean, at least Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are. And so the question really is, if we can agree on what the minimum set of KPIs are, that this is a good place to start, and not work on the final goal. I mean, it will be a baby step towards that goal. It really helps the European market, and I think maybe other parts of the world will benefit from this to move forward.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, your vision is to find way to standardize these KPIs with set of stakeholders, folks here, maybe broader OCP community, and then make sure that industry follows that. Just like PUE was a standard.
I mean, the European Union just released the document. They're mandating spec cert. I think I don't know what you guys think, but that's a nightmare for us. I don't think anybody can measure spec cert. I mean, we have, OEMs here. We have HP, Dell. They cannot measure spec cert. So this is why I'm starting this conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Baba.
You're welcome.
But then to follow with that exactly that discussion, since okay, even if it makes no sense what the European Union is doing in some way, but they are doing it, so it will be law sooner or later in 28 member states. So what you're suggesting might be kind of aligned with that, right?
Well, spec cert
or be better.
Cert, I don't think it will be difficult for us to be aligned. I mean, spec cert is not configurable. You cannot, you have servers, and I don't think spec cert is relative. I think that first of all, they're collecting feedback on this, and we're going to give us our feedback. We're giving feedback to the European Union through the Swiss Federal Office of Energy. They're the ones who are soliciting it. So we give them our feedback, but we're moving on. We're not in the European Union. What we're trying to do at SDEA is whatever labels that are popping up in Austria, Germany has this TÜV and Blaue Engel. Austria just is following Germany now. They just announced that they want to create a TÜV. We're in a conversation with them where we'll say, look, if you do PUE certification for your DC flows, which is the only thing they're interested in, they don't even want to touch IT, we will look at basically making those labels, as long as the auditors can establish that they're compatible with our DC flow, we will allow the customers of those labels to also use our label for their IT. So we're working together with those groups, but we're not necessarily working together with everybody in the European Union. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. But I think it can cause a bit of confusion at some point, because at some point we'll need to. I'm living in Europe as well, so and the other day I was in an event with European Commissioner Nikolaos, I think it was his name, who's actually preparing this energy efficiency directive, and they will publish the KPIs by the end of the year, the final KPIs, and so. Of course, it's very nice to have a lot of KPIs from different initiatives, but if the law is really pushing us to report on some KPIs, we need at least to report based on that. Right?
That's a very good point. So meanwhile, data centers are actually moving forward. So I was at the Austrian Data Convention Center last week. I just presented the label. There was a conversation about TÜV, and Austria is also trying to pursue TÜV. So that's independent of the European Union. The good news is that these are all behind, and the targets they're setting are much lower than the targets we've already set. And the targets that we have are much lower than what the hyperscalers are doing. So we have 3 levels of hierarchy. So the good news is that I think TÜV is already happening. We saw a presentation from a company called Aquinet in Germany. They are one of the pioneers of sustainability. They just built, remodeled a data center that achieved 1.3. They have a new one they're building that's achieving 1.2. And they're saying 1.2 is super hard for measured over a year, not instantaneously, right? And they were presenting all the problems they had with PUE, because there is no such thing as PUE certification. And so I was there talking to them, saying, look, we have already visited all these problems, and we already have a solution for this, and we're working on other problems so that we can work together with them while the European Union is sort of coming up with things that are coming later. I don't think the European Union will mandate cert. If they mandate cert, nobody will be able to reach cert, because it's a meaningless. Spec is super useful, but trying to hold, you don't have information for every server configuration. You talk to HP or Dell, it's not possible to reach spec cert numbers. So it may even go away basically in this conversation.
Yeah, this is Eric. I think I'm actually involved in some of the work with the EU and Nikolai and those guys trying to figure out how to do this. And what they're really after is a capacity measurement. Do you have such a KPI, like a service capacity metric, as part of your?
We don't have a
KPI?
service capacity metric, and I think that's the next level set of KPIs. But what we have is a utilization. We're measuring the utilization of the components. So we're measuring, you have provisioned CPU or virtual CPU, depending on whether it's consolidated or not. You have provisioned electricity for these CPUs. What fraction of that electricity that's going to CPUs are you actually using? We have the same thing for memory. You have provisioned your memory, your DRAM capacity to be a certain amount. How much of that memory are you actually using? You have provisioned, resources for your network, for your storage. How much of that are you actually? So these are first set of KPIs, which is not really a service capacity, but it's a server capacity. That's what we're measuring right now.
Right, not capacity, but utilization. I'm interested in how you do that for a network, because obviously, 100% network utilization is not good.
No, yeah, of course. The utilization is a it's a Markov model, right? So you don't want So we of course we target sweet spot for utilization where you don't run into queuing. Yeah, I mean that's exactly. And I think that I actually. So I have an open source suite of benchmarks called Cloud Suite. I launched 14 years ago. There's a company called Cavium that eventually used these benchmarks to design ARM-based server CPUs that were acquired by Marvell. And so I've been in this space for a while, and we now released the 4th version of Cloud Suite. So I understand benchmarking. We're a little bit far away from actual service benchmarking. We're still at the server level.
Okay, thank you.
And also, a lot of our customers find that useful because they have no idea what they're doing with the servers.
I think Shruti had a question also in chat. She's wondering if it's possible to get a link to
Yep, I'm on it.
The manual.
I'm on it. I'll send those links in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions for Babak before we close? Well, thanks for spending the time with us, and we warmly encourage you to join the group going forward to join further discussions in future months, and then hopefully next year we'll see you at the summit.
Sorry, like I said, I missed the summit because I'd already scheduled a trip to the US the following week, but definitely I look forward to working with you guys. I mean, this is exciting. This conversation is super exciting, and it's also a conversation with the right people. So I'm happy to be part of this.
Great. Well, likewise. And everyone else, smooth travels. And we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Good talking to you about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.